opportunity to hear directly from a member of our senior leadership team about the status of the crash investigation and the new safety measures we have in place here at DTW. We will show you, as we shared previously, portions of some of the surveillance video from the night of the crash at the McNamara Terminal, and then our SVP will take questions. So at this time, it is my pleasure to introduce our Senior Vice President of Emergency and Support Services and Operations, Tadariel Sturdivant. Tad?
Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us this afternoon. As you know, I'm Senior Vice President Tadariel Sturdivant, in charge of Emergency and Support Services and Airfield Operations. The reason why we're here on behalf of our CEO, Chad Newton, is to talk about the incident of the vehicle driving through the McNamara Terminal back on January 23rd, as well as parts of the investigation and where we are with that investigation, and then just get into a little bit of the safety review that we conducted here at DTW, and some of the measures that we put in place to ensure that an incident like this does not happen again. If we could start by showing the video. Here's another view. So as you can see from the three videos we just shown, a very unusual event that happened that could have caused horrific damage and injury, but did not. So what do we know? What we know is that the vehicle driven by an individual was in the far left lane, driving, went beyond vehicles parked on the right, made a sharp 90-degree turn, appeared, and I use the word appeared to have a slight acceleration, and drove through the doors there at the McNamara Terminal. There were, I think, 6 people that were seen by our paramedics that responded to the scene. None of those individuals was transported. I believe their major concern was the trauma that they experienced from the vehicle crashing through the terminals. So on January 23rd, at approximately 7:27 p.m., our airport response center received notification that a vehicle had driven through the terminal. Within 27 seconds, our first police officer was on scene handling and addressing the incident. The subject exited the vehicle, and upon exiting the vehicle, immediately appeared to be incoherent, stating his particular name and talking maybe not what a regular person would say, gibberish. At that particular point, he tried to enter into a sterile area or a secure area of the airport, in which he was apprehended by several of our police officers on the scene and then taken down. You also notice that when he came through the terminal, his airbags did not deploy in the vehicle. The vehicle was a 2024 Mercedes-Benz 300, which would let us believe from an investigative standpoint that the impact was not at a speed in which it would deploy the airbags. Again, the injuries was one TSA that was seen by our fire department, one TSA employee, 2 Delta employees, and 4 different passengers. The subject, or the driver, was taken into custody that night. He was interviewed. The interview revealed that perhaps there was a mental health issue at foot. A mental health issue episode was occurring, at which time our police department diligently, upon consulting with the Wayne County Prosecutor's Office, petitioned the individual for a mental health exam. Things that the investigation that we did, first of all, we took a look at the car. We had our canines come in and sweep to make sure that there was nothing connected to the car that could do further damage. We also made sure there was no leakage of fluids that could cause any type of situations with people in the terminal. And when our canine people cleared the scene, we were able to consult with the Wayne County Prosecutor's Office. And 2 things we were waiting before we send it over for charges. Number 1, we did have a blood draw for the individual, and we're waiting for toxicology reports to come back, as well as data from the vehicle that could reveal was there an acceleration and what was the impact speed when it crashed through the doors. The investigation was a very excellent investigation by our team at the police department, which got the individual potentially the help that he would need from that standpoint. But there's insufficient evidence that would link this particular incident to any sign of terrorism. That night, after this incident occurred, our CEO, Chad Newton, called me on the telephone as the SVP and says an incident like this cannot happen again, and we immediately launched a review of all of our safety systems from the top to the bottom. That review started the night of the incident. That review entailed taking a look at evaluating the bollards that we had in place. As you saw, the individual actually sheared off one of the bollards as he crashed into the door. Also, what would be needed right now temporarily to make sure that this incident does not happen again. As a result, we began to take a look at bollards that we had on location, but we did not think they were heavy enough to stop a particular vehicle. So we did take a look at Jersey barriers. Jersey barriers weigh about 9,000 pounds a piece. On your way in, you might have saw those barriers, and we have put those barriers up in front of all the doors at both the McNamara and the Evans departure and arrival levels. Now, our departure levels and one of our arrival levels are basically a bridge in which we had to make sure that we had to talk with engineers, architects, as well as the airlines to ensure whatever we put on those bridges, the bridge would be able to withstand the load of the weight. Once we got clearance that we could put X amount of weight on those particular bridges, we then had to source for Jersey barriers in which we were able to locate. Some of those Jersey barriers were buried into feet of snow and ice, and they had to be dug out and absolutely then inspected to see if, in fact, they would be able to withstand an impact such as that. Through our maintenance department, Vice President Joe McCabe, we were able to install over 303 yards of Jersey barriers, 9,000 pounds of slab, which is approximately 200 tons of concrete. And right now, I would say that our airport is secure today than it has ever been in the past. With that, the investigation also pointed out that with the toxicology, we would have to wait back for that to come back from the Michigan State Police, as well as the black box data from the vehicle. Also on that night, as a result of what we were attempting to secure, we've had meetings with our airlines. We have established a work group, and that work group is to establish what type of permanent type design could we put into play that would withstand the load restrictions of our bridges. What could we do permanently? And we are in the process of making that happen. But temporarily, the bollards are in place. And I know for some, because I had some people say that, you know, they don't look that aesthetically pleasing. But I would rather be safe than pretty in this particular incident. So that is where we are with that. Again, with the future, we're looking at more permanent type fixes from architects and designs. The first thing we have to do is to come up with a design, build out that design, and then implement that particular design. We have spoken with other airports and consulted with other airports around the country to determine what, in fact, they have in place as well. So with that, I would throw it back over to Erica. I'm available for questions, or if you have questions. Could you speak a little louder, sir?
I was just going to say the airport's initial response relied on brief written statements for 13 days or so up until this point, but we have not heard directly from the CEO. Why isn't he here today to personally reassure travelers that the tunnel is safe?
The CEO that night told me that this could never happen again, put me in charge. And as the one being in charge, it's my responsibility to see that happen. So I am here as the person in charge and responsible for securing the airport, and that's why I'm here.
Could you elaborate on the types of injuries that the people sustained?
It is my understanding that they were not hit by the vehicle nor by any debris. It was the trauma of the experience that they were seen and treated by our paramedics.
In terms of the damage that's going right now, that glass is obviously boarded up and everything. What would the cost be to get that fixed? And I guess, is there an estimate on how much it's going to cost to get the new security measures?
Let me say this, from a security standpoint, and that's what I'm all about, I don't put a cost on security. It is what it will be from that standpoint. So I don't have an estimate as of yet. As it relates to the permanent type fix, first we got to get a design and to see if that design will work within the bridges. And let me just go one step further. Those Jersey barriers would not have been possible to put up if not for the support of our Wayne County CEO, Warren Evans. Warren Evans and our CEO spoke, and his staff was able to find Jersey barriers and actually help us install them in I think 2 days. And again, each one of those barriers is about 9,000 pounds.
You mentioned earlier that there wasn't evidence that this was related to any sort of terrorism, but in any interactions with the driver involved, can you speak to motivations? Was there previous planning? Did he have access to how the doors were made, or why this attempt would work again? Like what other information can you provide about what he did and his motivation?
This is still an active investigation, and I don't want to get into the intent or that involved, but as a result of us working with our federal partners as a result of certain statements that we obtained from the driver, as well as making contact with family members, there was insufficient evidence to link this to any type of terrorism event.
But you can't say if you had access to materials that maybe helped them, I don't know, schematics for the airport or any sort of inside information or anything?
Not to my knowledge, and if I did, I would not get that involved at this particular point in time.
Is this young man still in custody, and how long can we expect on the toxicology report?
A toxicology report is sent over to the Michigan State Police, and that will be a great question for our state partners. So we don't have an estimate at this particular point in time, but he is not in our custody, but he is between he and his medical situation is not walking the streets.
You had said that the airbags didn't deploy.
Yes.
Did he drive over it, or like what are those rated? Were those supposed to be rated to stop vehicles? Because if it didn't deploy, did he go up and over it so that it didn't work the way that it was supposed to?
Yeah, my understanding is he took part of what went out, but my surprise, I would have thought that our bollards would have stopped the vehicle, but it's evident that they don't. So having that information, we are now taking the necessary steps to ensure that whatever goes up will stop vehicles. No, the Jersey barriers are definitely temporary, and we are in consultations, again, with engineers, architects, to see what we can put out there so that we don't create another situation by having a bridge collapse because of the weight that we put on there. So we are still working through that process. Excuse me, she had her hand up, you probably couldn't see. That's okay. Yes, ma'am. Yes, I definitely mean that. No, I will not say that. Yes, sir.
Sorry, I was going to ask the same question.
Okay.
You're talking about
Okay.
toxicology, but you
Yes and
don't
no.
identify who has them or where he is or how long he's going to stay
Nope.
there or why he's there.
Nope.
Is there any reason why you can't say that?
It's between he and his doctors.
Are there any ideas you can share about this design that's going to protect the passengers?
The new design,
Yeah, any ideas you could share with us today about what that looks like in the future?
it could be, and no, I don't, because we have not progressed to that point, because we're still working with our engineers and our architects to determine weight loads and what could be placed on there. But some of you might have seen some of these large concrete flower pots that are filled with concrete, and you could put flowers on them. That is one of the things that's under consideration, but those also have a heavy weight load. So we're making sure that we don't solve one problem and create another one.
Now, when it comes to the change in security measures, along with the barriers and everything, is there going to be anything else that can increase in the airport police presence? Or are going to be, what else are you looking at?
There's already been an increase in what we call directed patrols in the particular area. So I don't want to get and release to everybody what our security measures are, but there will be an increase.
After this happened, you said that you had talked to some of the other airports around when this happened. Did other airports employ this type of a bollard that they would also have to take a look at being a security risk?
I don't like to speak for other airports publicly, but what I will say is that other airports probably have the same situation, and they're in the same process of reviewing what they have as well. Yes, sir.
Okay, my question is this: he crashes through this thing, he nearly kills somebody. Why not just charge him, turn it over to the prosecutor, get the charges, and get him off the street instead of turning him over to his own doctor?
Didn't say he was turned over to his home doctor, number one. Number two is, in consultation with our Wayne County Prosecutor's Office, we're following their directions to the T. You're welcome.
Given the age of the airport, these redesigns, is it going to go, will you have to go beyond that and do a complete renovation or a partial renovation of the existing structures?
I would say that everything's on the table at this particular point in time, and until we are able to further get with this work group, it's hard for me to preliminary come up with a design that has not been developed as of yet. But we do know there are certain types of designs out there that could be a potential source for us, but we don't know that yet until our engineers clear that type of stuff.
Finally, is there a timeline for when you may be seeing those plans?
Don't have a timeline, but I do know that we're entering construction season where you can pour concrete, things of that nature. So I don't have a timeline as of yet, but we would like to see it as soon as possible. And we're working diligently to make sure that it's done as soon as possible. I won't release them, but because I work for emergency support services, but they could be through our airport. That's a question probably for our Vice President, Erica Donaldson.
Have you heard from passengers or airport employees or Delta employees who work in that terminal since this incident about concerns?
What I've heard, and it's limited personally what I've heard, and what I've seen is that passengers and employees are extremely happy that we acted as fast as we did to put something up in place that will stop an event like this from ever happening again.
All right, that concludes our news conference. Thank you all so much for attending. If you need to see the video again, please let us know. We can roll that again for you without the pointer. Okay, perfect. All right, thank you.
Real quick, could you just spell your name for us, please?
Yes, I can. Tadario, T-A-D-A-R-I-A-L. Last name is Sturdivant, S-T-U-R-D-I-V-A-N-T. You're welcome.
You'll let us know when you're ready, and we'll re-roll those videos.
We're good.